All right, well, welcome back to episode number 2 of For the Ages. Since the last episode, a name's been established, so
Right
we're
on.
making a little bit of progress. All things, so that's good. So yeah, For the Ages, just a podcast, social media channel, everything where we talk about all things golf and golf history. I'm your host, Cody Wise, and today Chase Gonzalez back in the studio joining me.
Happy to be back, man.
Yeah,
What a trip.
man, we got a lot to talk about today.
We do. Lot
I'm
to
excited.
unpack. I'm ready for the download.
We have a lot to cover. We were in Augusta last week. We had a hell of a trip.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most memorable trips I've ever had, for sure. We played golf. We went to the Tuesday practice round. Um, we got a few things to talk about today.
Yeah, man. That was fun. I'd run it back any day of the week.
Anytime. So the Masters, if you're out there listening, if somebody catches wind of this, if you guys want to look at Chase and I in the lottery and pick us again, we will not be against that.
No, not at all.
How about that though? I mean, just the tournament itself obviously had a lot of ups and downs. We'll get into that in a lot further detail, but um, real quick before we start, when we recorded the first episode back in March,
Right.
um, we were talking about the 1934 and 1935 Masters, the making of the Masters, how Augusta got purchased and built, all those things, right? That night, you sent me an Instagram post.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why don't you tell the viewers what the Instagram post is about?
Yeah, it was interesting, right? Like we were talking about making of the Masters, few first tournaments, and you brought up something that I honestly was unaware of. But Gene Sarazen's shot heard around the world. So after we have our session, I'm at home eating dinner and scrolling through Instagram. Sure enough, the first thing that pops up is literally footage from back then when Gene Sarazen hit that shot and went on to win the tournament.
Yeah, I mean it felt like kind of like a spiritual moment almost like it was almost like a sign of okay, you guys are doing what you should have been doing.
Yeah.
Like the timing of it, because literally as we were recording the episode, the Masters official account posted this. So let's play it real quick and
Jones on his own Augusta national force. He's playing par 4, but it isn't enough against champions who are turning in birdies and eagles. Looks like old times, though, as the Emperor with his putter calamity tamed 6-1, but he's out of the running. Henry Picard of First Pennsylvania cracked the course record with a card of 67 in his first round, led the field at the halfway mark. Craig Wood in the third session, playing in the base of high wind, turned in a 68 to the lead. He showed in the fourth round and needs this punt for a 73 at in she goes, but is not over yet. Gene Sarazen, trailing Wood by 3, drops a 220-yard shot for a double eagle and a tie with Wood and then wins the playoff. Even 50 years from now, they're going to call that the most spectacular shot in golf history. The gallery's photo bot.
so go ahead.
There's nothing like seeing this footage and seeing these dudes golfing in slacks, button down, a tie, ripping a dart. I mean, it's just incredible.
It's so I've been following the Masters. I've been following the Masters for a long time now, and their Instagram, first of all, everything that they do is just top notch. There's
Yeah.
so much thought put into every little detail. Um, but I've never seen them do a flashback in time to the early years of the Masters. Maybe I had, but it's been a long time and I
Right.
forgot.
Yeah.
It was just crazy that we literally just got done recording an episode about that. And then this is what they post
Yeah.
as we were recording. So, anyways, that was
Same
just
time.
a really, really cool moment. But yeah, let's dig into some of the stuff. We're gonna talk through our trip, a couple courses we played. But yeah, I'm curious, now that we've made the trip, what are your thoughts coming out of Augusta and your first trip to the Masters?
Yeah. Obviously, like we talked about in the last episode, I went into it with no expectations, right? Um, I think first and foremost, like everyone was extremely nice. All of the patrons, all of the staff, like, they were definitely treating you with Southern hospitality. So it was awesome to see. What I was not ready for were the lines to get into the pro shop. I mean, that was pure chaos inside the pro shop.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, we knocked that out first thing in the morning. We were able to get all the gear that we wanted. And then it was time, like, all right, let's go hit the course. I think the interesting piece that you can't really tell on TV. Obviously, the announcers, Jim Nantz or Smiley can tell you like, oh, there's a big hill, or he's got to really hit this part of the green because there's a valley that feeds it into the pin. But when you see it in person, it's very hilly. There's a lot of undulation. There's a lot of slope. And it almost looked like these guys were putting on glass. Like, I don't know how many putts we watched where they would just tap it and it was rolling, sometimes 15, 20 feet. But overall, the course was in great condition. I think maybe 20 minutes into us walking the course on the first tee or the first hole with Dustin Johnson and Joaquin Neiman, took a moment, put my hands in the grass, felt the grass. It was just amazing. The food was great. The people were nice. And then we got to see some incredible players hit some pretty cool golf shots.
We did. It's the cool thing about the practice rounds as well is that you get to see the players hit shots that they know that they're going to face throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're on 2, for example, the par 5, they're all hitting shots to that back right portion of the green because
Right.
they know the Sunday pin's going to be back there.
Yeah.
So you see them sort of like they're a little bit more relaxed. They're, in the zone with their caddies and they're playing partners, but they're chopping it up with the crowd a little bit. But it's really cool to see how they finesse around the course in preparation because it's very articulate, right? And Augusta's so much of a feel course. And I think that's one of the things, and we'll get into it later, but that's one of the things that I think Bryson personally, that he struggles with.
Yeah.
He's such a data-driven science guy, which is great for a lot of golf courses. Augusta's kind of the equalizer, though.
Yeah.
Because you can't apply much science to Augusta. It's very much so an experience, more of a feel type of course. You have to know where to miss. You have to make sure that you're on the right side of the pin to make sure you've got the right angle to be able to, get the ball in the hole at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you touched on the lines. That's one of the unspoken things about attending the Masters. There's a ton of people there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But in the first episode, we talked about the goal, which was to get the elusive gnome.
Yeah.
Man, while we were in line, I mean, how many people did we see walking out of the pro shop with the gnomes?
I mean, it was almost everyone that was walking out had 2, 3, 4, sometimes even 5 gnomes walking out. And it was like every time we would move up 2 feet or 3 feet, there was, 10 or 20 people walking out of the pro shop.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I'd look at you and I'd be like, man, I don't know. It's not looking too good, but there's a shot. There's a chance.
There's a shot. We were in line as early as I've ever gotten to the Masters before. And there was a massive line just to get in the gates,
right,
which I had never experienced before. So that was kind of a new thing. We thought, hey, we're going to get there super early. We probably left the Airbnb at
6:15, maybe 6.
If that. I think it was maybe even earlier than that. 5:45, 6. Nonetheless, we went into the pro shop. I think I cashed my bet on the over of you spending for merch. So the couple hats, couple polos that did not pan out.
That went out of the gate as soon as I walked in.
It did. The gnome. We got to talk about this. Unfortunately, we did not get the OG sort of 2025 themed gnome.
Yeah.
But what we did get was this guy.
Oh, yeah.
The standard Augusta gnome. So we did our best, everybody. It was a battle to get it. So we doubled down as well and even got a gnome Christmas ornament. So that way we've got plenty of gnomes circulating around the household, but was slightly disappointed, not gonna lie,
Yeah.
that we didn't get it. But
I wasn't even looking to get a gnome. And then I found out how elusive they are, and I was like, all right, I guess I got to get this medium-sized fella.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got them. They'll be in the house. So let's move on to day one of the trip.
Yeah.
We fly in to Atlanta. Weather was pretty touch and go.
Yeah.
It was raining a lot. But we started the day with Palmetto Golf Club out in Aiken, South Carolina. So Palmetto, we've actually got a correction. First episode, we said that it was the second oldest course in the United States.
Right.
There's a little bit of a caveat there. It's the second oldest operating or continually operating course in the United States.
Yeah.
So still a ton of rich history, still a fantastic course from what we got to see, but it was a downpour.
That was brutal, man. It reminded me of playing Pinehurst a few years back when we were just getting dumped on. It was raining sideways, 40 degrees. Obviously we live in Texas. When it's raining, we don't normally golf. So it was quite an adjustment for me, but the whole drive there, I was like, man, the rain's supposed to end at 2. We should be good. Rain's supposed to end at 3 now. Rain's supposed to end at 6. I was like, all right, you know what? We're just going to roll with it. See what happens. I brought, 4 or 5 gloves. I should be good. Not the case.
It was a rough go at it, but we had a great attitude. We were having a great time. It was one of those days where you wrap the phones in the towels and it's more, okay, we're just gonna, power through this. And we still had plenty of laughs, a lot of smiles. Yeah. We were just excited to be there.
Yeah.
So Palmetto Golf Club was actually founded in 1892 by a guy named Thomas Hitchcock. He was a prominent sportsman from Long Island. He originally built 4 holes out there in 1892. And that's where holes 16, 17, 18, and the practice range is currently located.
Which we didn't get to see those.
Unfortunately, we did not get to see those. In 1895, Palmetto then expanded to 18 holes. The second 9 was designed by Leeds and James Mackerel, who was Palmetto's first golf professional. There is record of Donald Ross having done some work there in 1928. In 1932, though, after completing Augusta National, Dr. Alistair McKenzie got roped in.
Oh, wow.
To help convert Palmetto's sand greens to grass and also to help lengthen the course. So, what was interesting that I saw in doing some research about Palmetto specifically is that they actually used excess materials from Augusta National.
Really?
In the Palmetto renovation. So pretty cool stuff if you didn't know that. But it actually has hosted numerous prominent professional golfers and some celebrities and notable people over the years. So Harry Vardon, during his 1900 U.S. tour, coming fresh off of his win in Chicago at the U.S. Open. Interesting fact about this, while Harry Vardon was visiting, he was actually denied access to the clubhouse.
Okay.
He was also not allowed to wear +4s, which I had to look up what those were. They're basically a form of knickers. So like Payne Stewart used to wear them, more of like a popular kind of like vintage old school golf style. They're really popular back in the 20s and 30s. Bobby Jones wore them, and then Payne Stewart sort of made the revival of them in his time. The other thing that was interesting was that Harry Vardon was permitted to smoke on the course only by special exception from the golf committee. So, interesting facts, but nonetheless, some other people that have gotten a chance to play there where we teed it up were Bobby Jones, Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson, Sam Snead, Ben Crenshaw, Presidents Dwight Eisenhower and William Howard Taft, Prince Andrew of Britain, and Bing Crosby.
Wow.
I would like to do an episode at some point on Bing Crosby. He was, really one of the most popular and influential artists and actors of the time, primarily through like the 20s up to like the 70s. He starred in a lot of films, but his influence on the game of golf is actually quite large. So little teaser, maybe a future episode, we'll dig into that a little bit. From 1945 to 1953, Palmetto hosted the prestigious Devereaux Milburn Pro-Am, which was actually the weekend before the Masters.
Okay.
So some people that won that were people like Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson, George Fazio, Henry Picard, and Lawson Little. Also, got word that Kevin Kisner lives out
Oh yeah.
at Palmetto. So
Yeah.
shout out Kiz if you're watching. Overall, though, from what we saw on the course, I loved what we got to experience.
Yeah.
It was only a little bit of the round. We ended up getting kicked off on, right as we started the back nine, and nonetheless, it you sort of got that rustic feel.
Right.
You could just sense that there was a lot of history in this course. For anybody too that is fortunate to win the lottery, like we were, like you were, they run a Masters Week deal. So it's a private club, but Masters Week, they open it up. And lastly, on Palmetto, shout out to Brooks Blackburn, the pro out at Palmetto. He took care of us, even though we only played, half the round. They did what they could. Obviously, Mother Nature is something that's completely out of their control. And as sort of fate would have it, the next day was perfect weather.
Couldn't have asked for a better turnaround in the weather.
Yeah. So now we're moving on to day 2 of the trip. We're actually going to the Masters. So this is the Tuesday practice round.
Yeah.
Right? We enter the gates. As you said, we hit the pro shop first. Lines are definitely a thing. There are a lot of people inside of the Masters. We didn't get the elusive gnome, but we did get a gnome. So we've got some stuff to work with there. After we did all of our shopping, we, ran back to the car, dropped our stuff, and then we, grabbed a coffee, quick bite to eat, and then we headed to the first tee.
Yeah.
So from there, we actually picked up Dustin Johnson and Joaquin Niemann, somebody who you talked about on the last episode. You were like, I really want to see Joaquin Niemann.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We ended up running into him literally on the first tee. So you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just being out on the grounds, it's so exhilarating. But because the no phone policy is in place, it really does force you to be present.
Right.
And you have to just work with what you've got. It's almost like when you walk in the gates, you take a step back in time.
Yeah.
Which I thoroughly enjoy. We chopped it up with a number of people while we were out there.
Yeah.
Right? People that were sitting on tee boxes or greens, volunteers, right? We talked to that one volunteer on the 4th tee for quite some time.
And some of the players as well.
Yep. We ended up then following DJ and Joaquin through 7 holes, and then from previous experience and also just reading up on it, behind 7 green is a great viewing area. You can see 7 green, you can see 3T, you can see 8T, 8's approach shot. You can also see some action behind you, so it's a great spot on the course. But while we were there, we got word that Scotty Scheffler was still in the front 9. So we kind of took a little bit of a breather, and we waited on Scotty and his group to show up. We followed them for the rest of that 9, because typically they only play 9 holes in these practice rounds. But we then got to number 9 tee box. If you recall, we were sitting on 8 green in the grandstands, and we were watching them sort of hit their practice shots to different areas around the green in preparation. And then I kind of nudged you, and I was like, yo, let's head to the 9th tee. Let's go get a good spot, because that's where they're going to go next. So talk to me a little bit about that, like getting set up on 9T and what you recall from being there.
Dude, I mean, we couldn't have had a better viewing point. So you took a spot on the right side of the tee box. There's benches there. That's typically where the caddies and the players kind of gather while each person is teeing off. And then I took a spot directly behind the tee box, so that way I can watch them tee off, see their shots, etc. Funny enough, the players come up. Sam Burns walks up. Scotty walks up. A few other guys that they were playing with. Scotty sits down right in front of you. I mean, I felt like you were going to offer him up a back massage or something. Like, let's go.
I was about to hit the shoulders. I mean, he was right there. I'm like, look, I want you to be as stress-free as possible coming in to the tournament. But
yeah. It was awesome, man. Like, I think one of the cool things is on the practice rounds, they at least allow you, even though there's no phones, they allow you to bring cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought a camera with me, and I mean, I just got epic photos of all of their tee shots. Scotty's shuffle that he does with his feet, got it all on camera. So it was an epic viewing point. Probably one of my favorite viewing points at that point in the day to see Scotty, tee off and chop it up with his caddy.
I mean, anytime you get a chance to see the number one in the world,
Yeah.
is a true pleasure. And Sam Burns was playing with him, and a couple other guys, but it was cool running into Ted Scott
Yeah.
as well. I sparked up a little conversation with Ted Scott. I was like, "Hey, I love your Sunday sermons."
Yeah.
Right? He posts these every Sunday on his Instagram, and it was just really cool to get to talk to him. And I felt like it was one of those things that kind of caught him off guard a little bit. But yeah, Ted, if you're listening, enjoyed that conversation.
Shout out.
Shout out. So after that, we followed them down 9, and then we were sort of just like getting prepped to really head to the back 9, which is the feature of the course.
Yeah.
At the time, we actually went over behind 18 green, and we were watching some other players come in. We saw Rory come in. We saw a bunch of other guys come in. Brooks Koepka, John Rahm, JT. We saw Freddie Couples.
Yep.
In the mix, Sergio Garcia, Jose Maria Olazabal, Justin Rose, a lot of guys that were starting to come in around that point, which was cool to see so many players.
Yeah.
This Masters trip was by far the most professionals that I've seen.
Okay.
While actually being out there.
Yeah.
Like I've seen a lot of them and going, but this was by far the most that I'd seen. So that was really cool. I mean, these are guys that are Masters champions,
yeah.
right? They're invited back for life. These are young guys coming up that are, trying to get their first major, trying to get their first green jacket. But should have mentioned this earlier too. When we played Palmetto, we got linked up with a very nice couple.
Yeah.
Tommy and Genevieve.
Oh yeah. They were fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They were great to be paired up with. And we were kind of battling the elements together, right? We're making the most of it. You and I were swapping my rain gloves because, you had normal golf gloves. They ran out of rain gloves in the pro shop.
Yep.
We're just like swapping between shots. But it was really cool getting to play with them and meet them.
Yeah.
Great people. And they ended up calling it a little bit early. But nonetheless, shout out to Tommy and Genevieve too.
Tommy can drive the ball a country mile.
Man, he was playing well.
He was playing really well.
He was playing well. What was really nice, though, is that, again, whenever you're out on the grounds, you don't have phones.
Yeah.
So you can't contact people. But when we finished the front 9 and after we went over to 18 green briefly, we actually ran into Tommy and Genevieve. So we got to chat it up with them a little bit, take some pictures, and sort of like take a step back and socialize with them before we then took on the back 9.
Yeah.
So then we made our way to number 10 tee, right? And this was, again, it's not like the front 9 is underwhelming by any means because there are so many holes, so many moments, and different shots that these guys have to hit in the tournament that is so awesome to see that close. But the back 9 at Augusta is really the feature.
Yeah.
So we start off down 10. We walked 10 sort of leisurely down, getting to see the massive slope. What TV doesn't do the best justice because it can't is that these guys basically have to hit a hook off of number 10 in order to get down into like the best position. So we made our way slowly down 11 as well, and then we were walking into Amen Corner.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And just, this being your first visit there, what was it like for you sort of like walking down the hill into Amen Corner?
I mean, it's the photos that you see, it's the footage that you see, right? Like, I felt like that walk, there was like anticipation building up at that point. I was like, all right, man, I need a beer for this. You were like, let's, smoke some cigars. Let's really like get well prepared for this and just sit there for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it was absolutely epic, dude. Like, I think that was the more concentrated area of patrons was on Amen Corner. And chopping it up with people, people were asking to take photos of them, and we met a couple dudes that were having having a good time as well. But yeah, it was that was probably one of the more epic like moments of us walking through the grounds was being on Amen Corner, and I think posting up for maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And just watching people come through.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, Amen Corner is, I mean, I took this picture, which is kind of hard to imagine. The pictures only do it so much justice, but for me going to Amen Corner, I almost feel this sense of tranquility run through me.
Yeah.
And I felt this during my first visit, second visit, and now, fortunately going with you for the third time in 6 years. This is my happy place, right? Like Happy Gilmore when he's talking to Homegirl about, go to your happy place.
Yeah.
Like, this is my happy place. And to your point, we got prepped. We got a fresh beer, got a pimento. We had some cigars, had more conversations. We were taking pictures. But we can't discuss Amen Corner without a couple of extra special shout outs to Michael and Andrew Kane.
Oh man, the Canes, dude. Great people.
Great people. So, they had a great setup there on Amen Corner, and they were kind enough to let us park it in their chairs for a few minutes and literally have a front row seat on Amen Corner and watch these guys come through, which fortunately for us, by the time we started the back nine, we picked up another group of, we saw guys like Justin Rose and Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah.
We saw Ludwig.
Right.
Like, we saw a lot of really cool guys on the back nine as well.
And your boy, who you thought was going to make the cut?
Yep.
What's his name?
Robert McIntyre.
Yeah, Robert McIntyre.
Yeah, we had a friendly wager on Robert McIntyre. We might have had a few beers at the point that this wager was made. I think we were sitting on 16 in the grandstands, and you were telling me no way. And I'm sitting there like, you got to understand, Robert McIntyre, he won a Scottish Open. His short game is great. He's going to play well out here.
I took one look at him and I said, this guy's not making the cut.
Yeah, well, all due respect to him. But we finished up, sitting on Amen Corner, really soaking in 12 for the most part. Made our way down 13. And you shared with me during sort of like dinner that night that 13 was probably your favorite hole out there, which I was happy to hear. 13 is also my favorite hole. So selfishly, it was cool. I'm actually going to get to it here in a second. There's some history behind 13.
Okay.
With Bobby Jones and Dr. Alistair McKenzie.
Okay.
So stay tuned for that. But we, continue to make our way down the back nine, hit 15, saw Rosie, Fleetwood, right? We were chopping it up with them.
Yeah.
You made the comment to Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah.
Like, hey, growing my hair out for you, Tommy.
Yeah.
Got a little chuckle out of it.
You got a good laugh out of that.
And while we were walking down 15, we actually saw Bernhard.
Yeah.
Which is super cool because Bernhard, two-time Masters champion. This was his last Masters tournament that he was going to compete in.
Right.
I was pulling for him to make the cut. He barely missed a putt on 18. But it was cool to be able to see him out there. And he was walking like where us as the gallery were walking.
I think he took a wrong turn there.
I think he knows where he's going on the course.
Yeah.
I think he was making a shortcut to a certain part of the course. But nonetheless, we stopped briefly on 15, and we sort of soaked in the moment that we talked about in the last episode where Gene Sarazen hit that 4-wood from about 230 out.
Yeah.
And I mean, that shot is so intimidating now.
Right.
Granted, the pond was not as large as it is now back then, but still difficult shot, downhill lie, have to elevate it and hit a firm green. It's still Augusta.
Yeah.
So that was really cool just to like be in that area where Gene Sarazen hit the shot heard around the world. Right. Made our way to 16, par 3, and we were in the grandstands. We got to see these guys hit their tee shots, got to see them skip it across the water, right?
Took some convincing, but Ludwig finally knuckled up.
Ludwig finally did it, yep. We kind of made our way down like the left side of the hole, and we stopped for a second to see where Tiger chipped in. 2005, which is super cool. And then 17 tee, like again, practice round, players are a little bit loose. started chopping it up with Ludwig,
Yeah.
and he was kind of like engaging us a little bit. So that was cool just to have that interaction with him.
Yeah.
And then we made our way through 17, got to 18, and we'd been following Justin Rose and Tommy Fleetwood's group for a while. And at the time, I'd seen a video on Instagram that he had done where he was, doing this motion with his right arm to skip rocks.
Right.
And while we were on 18, just ahead of where the tees were, I decided, hey, I'm just gonna throw out like hey, Rosie, keep skipping those rocks, right?
Yeah.
And you got some like sick pictures
Oh, yeah.
and actually going through the motion
Yeah.
of doing the skipping rocks. And unfortunately for him, thankfully it was a practice round, but on that tee, he pulled it left.
Right.
So he kind of did the motion like he rolled his right shoulder over. But again, this was just like one of the really cool things about being in a practice round, because obviously that would never happen during
No.
a tournament round.
Yeah.
But then, just like walking up 18, made a quick pit stop. We had to grab the Georgia Peach ice cream sandwich, right? You caught the picture with the crew.
The crew, man.
Yeah, that was
cleaning crew.
That was pretty epic. There's so many volunteers out
Yeah.
there, right? But the tournament and the practice rounds, just the whole ordeal, it doesn't function without the volunteers and the people that work it. So shout out to all the people that, work the Masters, people that volunteer to make that happen and make an experience so unforgettable.
Yeah.
So we walked up 18, kind of got to soak in a little bit of like the feeling of, okay, a few days from now, there's going to be somebody walking up 18 with the thought that I have a chance to win the Masters, right? We then just like made our way up to, the top of the course, the patio area, and tried to get in for a picture on Magnolia Lane. They shut it down. So they try to keep crowd control. There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is chaos, but it's as organized of chaos as they could muster up. But, ran into some cool people out there too.
Oh, yeah.
Like J.R. Smith was walking in the gates and just saw J.R. Smith walking in like any other patron. So that was pretty cool.
I think we saw Ken Griffey that night at dinner.
We saw Ken Griffey that night. Yeah, Ken Griffey Jr., Michael Collins, ran into them at a restaurant there in Augusta. Eric Anders.
Oh, yeah.
From Random Golf Club. Shout out, Eric. So it was cool just being able to go through the practice round, walk literally every single hole and soak it in. But yeah, any other thoughts on just...
I think just to wrap that up, like the cool thing was the Tuesday practice round is the champions dinner. So we hung around the big oak tree, the patio, and we were seeing not only like Bryson and Xander finish their round, but, people were coming in and out to change and put on their green jackets. So it was cool to see, like, I think more of like the personable side of like John Rahm or Sergio put on their green jacket, take photos with their wives out by the oak tree. And that was a pretty interesting part that you don't ever get access to that, right? You don't see that on TV. You don't see the dinner. You don't see any of those occasions really besides on social media. So it was pretty cool to kind of see that in person.
Yeah, 100%. That was, we saw them wheel in the basically the clothing rack with all the green jackets.
Right.
And then we started to see champions slowly emerge from there. But yeah, really cool stuff. So let's take a quick break. Let's refill your whiskey and then we'll talk about day 3. So yeah, moving into day 3, Forest Hills. We didn't get a lot of sleep on this trip, but I think it was worth the lack of sleep to enjoy what we did.
I think by our last day on Wednesday, I was running on maybe 8 or 10 hours of sleep. I mean, the Monday morning, I woke up at 3 a.m. for my flight. Exhausted, laying in bed, but anxious and excited about the Masters. I didn't go to sleep until like 1:30 or 2 a.m. And then we woke up at 5. And then that night, exhausted and tired, but still like excited about the fact that we were just at the Masters. I mean, we were cleaning our clubs at like 11:30 p.m. Didn't get much sleep the night before Wednesday. So I was pretty gassed by the time we got to that Wednesday tee time.
Yeah, I mean, we were running on fumes. I think we had enough adrenaline going for the round. The drive back to Atlanta was
Tough.
one of our more quiet drives, I would say, but it was all for good stuff. So day 3 we played Forest Hills, right? A little bit of unique history on Forest Hills as well. So the course was established in 1926, Augusta University's home course, and it has some ties to Bobby Jones, playing out there and just being associated with Forest Hills as well. The course was originally designed by Donald Ross, same designer of Pinehurst, right? Also had a little play in Palmetto Golf Club too. It was then renovated by the Arnold Palmer Company in 2003. So, um, you know, some pretty proficient people that designed the course and got it to what we saw it, right?
Right.
And after Hurricane Helene,
Yeah.
there were a lot of trees missing.
Yeah, that was one of the more interesting things too about that course, right? Like I was looking at photos, I was looking at the course map as well, just trying to figure out how I was going to play it. And there's trees everywhere, like towering trees. And you get there and you can see through the entire course from the first tee box, second tee box. So it was interesting to hear the guys at the pro shop that were like, all these trees wiped out. So unfortunate at the same time, but it was still a beautiful course.
Still a beautiful course. The greens were fantastic. They had just hosted, so they do this every year. They do the Augusta Haskins Award Invitational, which is a men's tournament that they host annually, and it's hosted by Augusta University. The course is also adjacent to Augusta, so there's some like similar-ish terrain with the rolling hills and the
Right.
elevation, the undulation on the greens. So you've got to hit some creative shots,
Yeah.
right? And I think what I really enjoyed, because I got to play in 2019 with Sewell, and the trees were still there. It was a much more dense course to where if you were a little bit offline with your drive, you got punished a little bit more.
Right.
I think thankfully for both of us at times during that round, there were some openings. But we got paired with these great guys from Northwest Indiana, Brian, aka
Cheese.
and Ryan. It was great playing with them.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about golf too in general is when you are just a twosome or even if you're a single and you get paired up with people, sometimes you get the short end of the stick, but
Sure.
a lot of times I've been paired with some really solid people that you've got great conversations and
Yeah.
sometimes you start a relationship
Yeah.
with some of these people. But the course was in great shape. We had a little match going, and it was pretty tight coming
Yeah.
down the stretch. I think the lack of sleep might have started to kick in for you a little bit.
I would, yeah, by the, I don't know what hole it was, maybe 13, 14, I was gassed. I mean, I was hanging on by a single thread. Obviously wasn't going to call it early. I was just going to battle through it. But you said the greens were fun for you, maybe. I don't think I've ever played greens that fast. A lot of 3 and 4 putts because I would just blow the ball right past the hole. And no one ever really, I don't think I've ever gotten a tip or a lesson of how to hit balls out of pine straw. So a lot of those drives that ended up in the trees in the pine straw, luckily was able to find my ball, but man, I was just back foot or front foot was slipping in each shot. So
yeah, you got to dig into the pine straw.
yeah, figured that out.
Figured it out. But to be fair, you were also only playing with a 3-wood.
That's true.
The
Yeah.
driver was not in the bag, but you smoked a few 3-woods. I mean,
Yeah.
your tee shot on 11 it was,
Right.
the par 5. I mean, you were not far behind where I hit my driver, and I stomped on that one.
Yeah.
Like that was about as pure as I could have hit it. Which speaking of 11, I think that was probably my favorite shot, like kind of creative shot.
Yeah.
Because if you recall, I was in the middle of the fairway, had like a 6-iron into the par 5 and tried to hit like a little 3/4 shot and pulled it left,
Right.
short left. And I had this massive ridge behind the pin, and as I was sort of like walking up from the cart to the green, I was like, you know what? I'm out here playing Forest Hills. I don't get a chance to play these kind of shots very often. Stepped it off, tried to hit this shot that was going to roll up to the crest of the hill and hopefully, sort of make its way and funnel back down to the
Right.
pin. Which executed the shot, didn't convert the putt. That was kind of disappointing, but
It was
still,
still it was still cool to see though. I mean, it was like you were playing pool out there, right? You were using the banks of any hill that you could. So it was pretty interesting to see. No one, including Cheese and Ryan and myself, thought you were going to do what you did. So when you did it, everyone was like, "Holy shit." Who is this guy? I
yeah,
think Ryan invited you to come play out in their country club invitational because he was like, "We need a ringer out here."
yeah. I told him, I said, "Hey, I'm a free agent member guest,
Oh yeah,
so come on, let's do it." But yeah, I think some of that was some inspiration from the practice round the day before
yeah,
too. Just seeing these guys go out and play these shots with such creativity. Um, so we're gonna jump into the tournament action. Obviously, there's a lot for us to talk about with the
right.
tournament as it took place, but let's talk about some history related to the Masters and specific holes, right? So let's start with number 13.
Yeah,
Both of our favorite holes on the course. I purposely did not tell you what my favorite hole was leading
right.
into it. I wanted you to have a very unbiased decision of what it was. Obviously, I'm a little bit more keen on par fives. They're more fun,
Yeah,
give you some chances for eagles if you hit a good drive, right?
right.
But so number 13 was actually the first hole that Bobby Jones and Dr. Alistair McKenzie found on the property. It was the most natural golf hole. They both said, all we need is a tee and a green, and it's done.
Wow.
So super cool to see how that hole has really maintained its elegance and sort of just the natural simplicity of what Mother Nature provided at
Right.
that time. Um, it does bring out the urge to get home in two if you can hit a good enough drive, right? It's a pivotal hole that Sarazen ended up playing safe in 1935. So talked about this on the last episode.
Yeah.
He hit it a little bit left. He was definitely more of the aggressive player, decided to lay up, and he ended up making birdie the old-fashioned way. Kind of what Rory was intending to do.
Yeah.
But it's very rolling, very undulating. If you hit it right, you're going to have a massive slope you've got to deal with. If you hit it further left, where you're bringing the trees more into play, you're going to have a flatter lie. So sort of the risk reward that
Right.
Bobby Jones and Alistair McKenzie would work into their golf course. So let's go back a little bit to 1934. We
Okay.
saw the Instagram clip earlier. Talked about Paul Runyon in the final round. Um, he was actually in a great spot to win the inaugural Masters, or the Augusta National Invitation Tournament, as it was called back then. But he hit it left off the tee and ended up making double on the hole and would end up finishing 2 strokes behind the winner,
Wow.
Horton Smith.
Okay.
So these holes, these shots, like they matter.
Yeah.
A guy named Jim Ferrier, which I was not familiar with. I was a little bit ignorant on who he was, but in 1950, he hooked his drive left as well. He actually had a 5-stroke lead at the time. He ended up slipping around that point, and 13 was sort of a crux. Jimmy Demerit would end up winning.
Okay.
So Jim Ferrier would have finished second, 2 strokes behind Jimmy Demerit.
It's tough.
Texan Jimmy Demerit, by the way, from Houston.
Oh wow.
Fred Couples, 1998, he actually pulled his drive left and ended up on a service road that was deep into the woods. So he was deep left. He hit a lofted shot back into the fairway and ended up pulling his third shot or pushing his third shot right into Rays Creek. Ended up doubling, finishing second, 1 stroke out of the playoff.
Hole 13 sounds like it's got a lot of heartbreak.
And we're not done yet. Ernie Els, 2002. He's in the final round. He's within 3 strokes of the lead from Tiger after he made par on 12 and Tiger bogeyed 11. Ernie pulled his drive left. Instead of hitting sort of a safe punch out, he decided he wanted to try to get further up the fairway, but he hit a low-hanging branch and it knocked it into the creek. Dropped it, hit it in the water again from 190 out. Finally got it on the green, 2-putted for an 8.
Wow.
Made triple. Ernie never won a Masters. Going back a little bit, 1954, probably the most famous go for it decision. A guy named Billy Joe Patton. Again, somebody who I was not familiar with until I read this book right here. It is The Masters, A Hole-by-Hole History of America's Golf Classic by David Soul. So, shout out to David for the book. He basically details every single hole and all the historical significance from, major winners leading up to, I think it left off with like Patrick Reed as the last winner.
Okay.
But going back to Billy Joe Patton in 1954, he was on a tear. He actually made a hole-in-one on number 6, the par 3.
Wow.
And he was hoping to make history as the first amateur to win the Masters. When he teed off on 13, he was in the mix with Sam Snead and Ben Hogan. And after he hit his drive, he actually told the gallery, because they were hoping that he would go for it in 2. He talked to the gallery at the point, because players back then, the gallery would be right up behind them. They could actually walk with them on the holes, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But he sort of looked back at the gallery and said, "I didn't get it here by playing it safe." So here we are. Hits a second shot into the creek. Attempted to play his ball from the creek, but determined it was too risky. Ended up dropping and made a double bogey 7. He finished in second place, 1 stroke behind Ben Hogan and Sam Snead.
That's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, crazy stuff happens on number 13, and we'll get into it with Rory as well, but number 13 was actually crucial in the playoff between Ben Hogan and Sam Snead that same year in 1954. Hogan hit his drive right. Snead was in the fairway. I really got a kick out of this. So Hogan's sort of like in no man's land out to the right. Snead is in perfect position. Ben Hogan actually walked over to Snead's ball before he hit his shot, just to like inspect his lie and feel it out. Like, is he going to go for it? Sam Snead told Ben Hogan at the time, he said, "I'm going for it." So like calling a shot.
Yeah.
Right? So Ben ended up just pitching out and trying to play it safe. Snead would end up edging out Hogan by 1 stroke in the playoff to win.
Wow.
So Snead made birdie on that hole.
Yeah.
1937 too, Ralph Goodall. He gave up a 4-stroke lead at the 12th by going for the pin, hit it short into Race Creek. He then hit his drive on 13. Second shot landed short in the creek, resulting in a bogey. Byron Nelson would end up draining a 25-footer for birdie on the 12th, and then he would chip in on the 13th.
Dang.
And he would maintain that lead to capture his second Masters title. Now, Ralph Goldall would get his redemption, 1939. Sam Snead was in the clubhouse at 8 under. Ralph stood at 7 under whenever he was on 13T. He pushed his drive right and ended up taking a huge gamble going for it in 2. So if you remember on 13, on the right side is where all the trees are.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where the slope is the most exaggerated. So he hits this just like beautiful 3-wood. Actually hit it into within 6 inches.
Wow.
For a tap-in eagle. Would end up winning by 1 over Sam Snead.
That's crazy.
So 13 is not always the demise.
Yeah.
There is some silver lining in 13 too. 1948, Claude Harmon, second shot found the creek, hacked it out to say par, and would end up winning by 5 strokes. But again, second shot on 13. Yeah. That's a tough one. 1961, Gary Player. He is the only Masters winner to survive a disaster at the 13th, as the book David Soul, the author, put it. Now, of course, he wasn't here in 2025 because Rory would end up surviving it too. But Gary Player started the day with a 4-stroke lead on Arnold Palmer. He would end up making double on 13. He wound up trailing Palmer by 1, but Arnie actually went on to double number 18, and Gary Player won by 1 shot.
Okay.
We'll get into more of that 18th hole here in a little bit. Just a few more on number 13. There's a ton of history on 13. 82, Craig Stadler. He had a 6-stroke lead, decreased to 4 after he doubled 12. That hole right there. He decided to go for number 13 and 2 after hitting his drive. He got a really, really solid break, though. So he hit his second shot, hit it a little bit fat, I believe, but it ended up rolling through the creek and ended up on the other side of the bank. So it actually wasn't in the creek.
Okay.
It was on the other side.
It's a lucky
So
break.
He chipped up, was able to 2-putt, make par, and he ended up in a playoff and won that playoff. Bernhard Langer, who we were talking about earlier. He had a similar shot to Craig Stadler in 82, but his would take a little bit more of a favorable bounce. It actually ended up on the green. And to kind of, hold my beer moment for Bernhard, he ended up actually sinking the eagle putt too. So shout out to Bernhard.
Love that guy.
2010, Phil Mickelson. He was leading by 1, hit his drive right, elected to go for it in 2, against the advice of his caddy, Bones Mackay. They were in a little bit of a discussion at that point. I remember watching this Masters thinking like Phil is about to lose it here, right? Arguably the best shot of Phil's career.
Right.
Hit it to within 4 feet. He did miss the eagle putt, but he made birdie and increased his lead to 2. Would end up winning his 3rd green jacket by 3 shots that year, 2010. Last one for 13, 2017, Sergio Garcia versus Justin Rose. Sergio started the round as a co-leader with Justin Rose. By the time he reached number 13 tee, he was 3 shots behind. He took an aggressive drive, hit it left, which is the demise on that hole, right? Had it taken unplayable, hit an amazing wedge shot, and ended up saving par on the hole. Justin Rose, I believe if I read this correctly, he also made par on the hole. So didn't lose ground on 13, but he had to hit this like miraculous recovery to really stay in it. Sergio would then go on to make eagle on 15 to force a playoff with Rose, and would win a green jacket and his first major, getting that monkey off of
Feel
his
bad
back.
for Rosie.
I do too, man. He seems like just a quality human.
Right.
And he has been in the mix so much. I've got some stuff here in a minute that we'll go through with Justin Rose, but just a class act all the way around. And he's been in the mix so much at the Masters. But yeah, that's a little bit of 13 history for you.
Wow. Glad I didn't know that going into it.
It's kind of one of those holes, and you and I were texting obviously back and forth a ton on Sunday. And I remember telling you, if Rory can get through 12 with a par, he's going to be good, right? Hit 3-wood on 13, hit a second shot up to layup. We know what happened. Blocked his wedge right. Probably the worst shot I've ever seen a professional golfer hit. Clearly there were some nerves involved with that.
Yeah.
Right? Ends up making double. But yeah, that was a tough.
It was interesting because in his post-round interview, he was saying his wedges were coming off a little to the left. So he tried going more to the right, thinking it would be in line, and just completely blocked it to the right.
Well, his wedge on 13 went right. His wedge on 18 in regulation also went right into the bunker. So maybe a little bit of overcalculation, but
could be.
I'm not going to sit here and tell Rory what he should be doing or what he shouldn't be doing. I'm just talking about the history of this stuff. So, speaking of Rory, 15 was an incredible shot. Probably one of the best shots on that hole. But let's go back in time a little bit to number 15. We obviously know about the double eagle by Gene Sarazen, 1935, right? The shot heard around the world. In 1941, Craig Wood, who, by the way, we talked about, he finished runner-up in 1934 and 1935. He was clinging to a one-shot lead when he got on 15T after he bogeyed the 14th. Decided to go for the green in 2 on 15, made birdie. Ended up getting his redemption after the 2 runners-up to capture his first Masters title over Byron Nelson. 1957, guy named Doug Ford. He actually almost got into a fight with his caddy, Fireball, George Franklin, because the day before, Doug Ford had hit it into the water, and now he was playing in the final round, and he was in virtually the same spot that he was in before. His caddy was like, nope, you're not going for it. Literally held his hand on the 3-wood, would not let him take it out. It was a heated exchange. Ultimately, Doug Ford won that argument and executed a shot. Ended up making birdie on the hole and would win over Sam Snead by 3 strokes.
Wow.
1961, Gary Player. He hit his second shot into 15. This was incredible to think about. So, behind 15 green, there's all that open space before you get to 16. Yeah. Well, back then in the 60s, they actually allowed patrons to be back there.
Okay.
Gary hit his second shot onto the green, and the greens were so firm it actually hit and bounced to be like level with the spectators. The spectators actually raised their arms, and somebody knocked his ball back onto the green.
Are you serious?
Dead serious.
Wow. Where's the
So
footage of that? We should find it.
I don't know if they had footage of that, but we'll try to dig it up.
Yeah.
So after a lot of deliberation with the officials, Gary Player was like, "Hey, I will play it from where the ball should have ended up." Right? The officials determined that he was actually going to play his ball with where it ended up after the spectators hit it. Almost ended up making that 40-footer for eagle, but then I had a tap-in birdie. So, pretty miraculous break there for Gary Player. Also another Grand Slam winner. 1979, Fuzzy Zeller went 4-2, was trailing by 4 strokes at the time, and he was in that sort of like I had to go for it stage and mentality. He barely cleared the bank, 2-putted for birdie, would end up forcing a playoff and winning against Ed Snead and Tom Watson.
Wow.
So that was actually the 3rd player ever to win in his Masters debut. Also, what was interesting, and it sort of relates to 2025, this was the first time in 1979 that there was the sudden death playoff. Before, it was the 36-hole playoff.
Oh, okay.
So they actually started on number 10 for the sudden death playoff. Fuzzy birdied 11, while Snead and Watson made bogeys. 2 more for number 15. Jack Nicklaus, 1986. Arguably one of the best Masters ever, right? He was age 46, I believe. Seve Ballesteros actually made eagle on 13. When Jack reached the 15th tee, he was 4 strokes behind. He ended up hitting a 4-iron to on 15 from about 200 yards. I think it was 202, what they said. Made the eagle putt.
Wow. Okay.
Went on to birdie 16 and was now only 1 stroke off the lead. Seve hit his second shot on 15 into the water. Jack ended up birdieing number 17 and would go on to secure his 6th green jacket. So the classic, highlight of Jack raising the putter and, the announcer coming on talking about how he sunk this birdie, that was on 17.
Okay.
Last one here for 15, Sergio Garcia, 2017. So he hit his tee shot on 15, was about 180 out, so pretty good poke. Hit an 8-iron. It actually nicked the pin whenever it hit the green. So lasered an 8-iron from 180, which is already a massive 8-iron, by the way. But nicked the pin, ended up sinking a 12-foot eagle putt to level the score with Justin Rose in 2017. So, yeah, any thoughts on 15 and some of that stuff that you know now?
I mean, it's just you have to execute almost to perfection. Like, you can't get cute or creative.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate whenever you've got the pressure on you to have to really double down and hit some shots that you don't want to hit. But they pay off, or they don't.
They pay off or they don't.
Yeah.
It's a risk-reward game, and that's part of the foundation of what Bobby Jones and Alistair McKenzie wanted to have in the course, right? Is we'll give you your chances, but you've got to hit flawless shots.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're going to be punished.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and blitz through 18, because 18 was obviously a pivotal hole with Rory and Justin Rose.
Right.
So 1946, Ben Hogan in the mix. Needed a par on 18 to force a playoff with Herman Kaiser. Ended up hitting a second shot about 12 feet above the hole. So if you recall watching the footage and being out there, if you're above the hole on 18 to that front pin, it's a straight downhill putt.
Yeah.
It's slick. He 3-putted. Missed the playoff. 1951, Ben Hogan reached 18, needing a bogey to secure his first green jacket. Was able to this time, so 5 years prior, hit it above the hole. 1951, Ben Hogan, he was like, there's no way in hell I'm leaving this thing above the hole, right? So he ended up leaving his second shot a little bit short, chipped on, and was sure to keep his ball below that hole and made par to win his first green jacket. This one was really fascinating to me. So Arnold Palmer, right? He is obviously somebody who's a cultural icon in the sport of golf. Big reason why golf has its popularity today. Listen to this run that he went on. 1958, won his first green jacket. 1959, lost to Art Wall. Art Wall birdied 5 of the last 6 holes to win. 1960, Arnie won again. 1961, one-stroke lead on 18, made a double after sculling a bunker shot over the green, and Gary Player was the one who won his first Masters. So going back to Gary Player hitting his going for it on 13 that we talked about earlier. 1962, Arnie forced a playoff with Dow Finsterwald and Gary Player. Ended up winning. 1963, finished 5 strokes behind Jack Nicklaus. Didn't win 1963. 1964, won his 4th and final Masters with a birdie on 18 to win by 6.
Just an absolute legend.
So between 58 to 64, he won 4 Masters.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an incredible run.
That's a hell of a run.
Clearly his game fit that place. 98, Mark O'Meara versus Freddie Couples, all tied on 18T. O'Meara just birdied 17. He made a 20-footer for birdie on 18 to capture his first major title. Would also go on to win the Open Championship that year. Mark O'Meara was one of those guys similar to Sergio, who had won so many times on tour, but had never won a major. So he was itching to get that first major off of his back. So it goes to show, if you get that first one done, it kind of frees you up because he won the Open later that year. 2001, Tiger, he birdied number 18 to capture his second green jacket. At the time, he was the only player to hold the title for all 4 majors.
Dang.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, 01 Tiger was unstoppable. 2004, Phil Mickelson. He was tied with Ernie Els for the lead on 16 with a birdie. He reached the 18th tee tied with Els. Chris DeMarco hit his bunker shot just outside of where Phil's putt was. So Phil ended up hitting it onto the green. He was playing with Chris DeMarco. DeMarco hit his bunker shot out, was just outside the line of Phil's putt. So he got a perfect line of seeing this, right? And he ended up catching the lip and drained a 20-footer for birdie to win. So real quick, I'm actually going to show you this clip because I think I've got it pulled up here.
Has that putt, birdie 1 and a win.
Is it his time?
I mean, just incredible stuff, right? So 18 obviously has produced a lot of moments.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, 04 Phil, that was a big deal. The next year, it was Tiger versus Chris DeMarco. This was the year that Tiger chipped in on 16 for birdie.
Yeah.
Tiger actually bogeyed 17 and 18 in regulation to finish tied with DeMarco. Forced a playoff, went to number 18. Tiger ended up making a 15-footer to secure his 4th green jacket at the time. Couple more here. 2009, Angel Cabrera versus Chad Campbell versus Kenny Perry. So there was a 3-way playoff that Angel Cabrera would end up actually winning. Angel Cabrera, we talked about it going into it, right? He had not been in competition for a while. He was in prison for a little incident that occurred. I'm not in a position to air out his dirty laundry or what might have happened or what might not have happened, but he made his first Masters appearance here this year in 2025 since 2019.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool to see him.
Yeah.
And then lastly on 2017, Justin Rose versus Sergio. This was the second playoff to end at 18. Now it's 3 times with Justin Rose, but Garcia would end up winning with a birdie on the playoff hole. So again, like Justin Rose, he's been in the mix in this tournament
A lot,
but also dating back a long time.
Yeah.
Right. So his game has stood the test of time, which shout out to him for the work that he puts in. but yeah, what do you think about 18 having known some of that stuff now?
18's incredible because, we were sitting maybe 15, 20 yards in front of the tee box. So we're able to see people's tee shots and see it go by and see where it lands, right? I mean, the when you watch it on TV, you can tell it's a little bit of a tunnel. It's a little bit of a window. Seeing it in person, I mean, it is like a chute of a tunnel. I mean, it is as narrow as can be right off your tee shot, which is such an intimidating tee shot to make. I can only imagine going to a playoff and having to re-tee on 18 and know that you have to hit a perfect shot to set yourself up to win the tournament. But obviously a lot of history. That's where jackets are won. But it's an incredible hole to see in person.
It really is, and you're right. That shoot is something else. I mean, it's already nerve-wracking enough if you're standing on 18 with a lead.
Yeah.
In any professional tournament, but especially the Masters, right? The Mecca. This is the tournament that everybody wants to win. 18, the reaction that Rory gave, and we'll get to it because I actually want to play that clip too, but there have been a lot of really cool moments on 18 when people have won. 1948, Claude Harmon won, and his idol, Bobby Jones, was there to greet him. Really cool moment for Claude. And 1986, excuse me, Jackie Nicklaus walking off the green, arm in arm, right? So he just won his sixth Masters at age 46. Ben Crenshaw, this is one that hit home. He won in 1995, was consoling with his caddy, Carl Jackson. This was a few weeks after Harvey Pinnock had passed away. 96, Faldo consoling Greg Norman. Greg Norman had a 6-shot lead heading into the final round and lost. Nick Faldo won that year. 97, Tiger's first Masters win, embracing Earl Woods, right? Like, such a monumental moment. Just so young, but so talented. And seeing that moment was really cool, right? Because they didn't have too many embraces following that because Earl Woods' health. 2004, Phil just played the club, right? Pretty amazing. But fast forwarding to 2010, when Phil won again, embracing his wife. This was after she was battling cancer for quite some time. So she had gotten a cancer diagnosis. Very emotional win, right? A lot put on the line there. 2019, how can you forget? Tiger winning, throwing his arms up in the air. I was in tears. He comes off the green. Charlie runs up to him, gives him a big hug.
Yeah.
I mean, not a dry eye.
How can you not be
place.
emotional seeing that?
And then, of course, 2025 with Rory.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll show the clip here here in a minute. But just what an enormous sense of relief, right? He's had this monkey on his back for over a decade, trying to close out the career Grand Slam, right? Join this elite company that we all knew Rory was capable. He's been in the mix with the Masters
Right.
time after time after time. But yeah, I don't know. Like what went through your mind? I know you were headed to the airport, right? But like what was going through your head whenever you saw Rory, finally get it done and see his reaction?
Yeah. I had an interesting Sunday for the round, right? I was supposed to fly out at, I believe, 7 a.m. to go to New York and watch the Masters with a buddy of mine. Missed my flight. I didn't set an alarm, woke up at, I think, 6:40, dropped a few F-bombs, threw some clothes on, brushed my teeth, drove to the airport just in case it was going to be delayed. Completely missed it. They were like, all right, your next available flight is 7 p.m. Started doing the math in my head. I was like, oh, I can just watch the Masters here. I should be able to finish the tournament and then head to the airport. We ended up going over to a buddy's house, and a bunch of people came over. They were making all kinds of food, and we were drinking, watching the tournament. And I'll be honest, day one or Thursday of the tournament, when Rory was struggling, I basically wrote him off. I was like, here it is again. He's not going to be able to finish this out.
He played well to start and then
Played well.
finished not good.
Yeah.
Coming on the stretch.
So I had initially wrote him off on Thursday. Sunday comes around. It's obviously a monumental pairing too, because it's Bryson and Rory, Live versus PGA Tour. Bryson obviously won, I believe it was the U.S. Open last time they were competing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as the tournament went on Sunday, it was kind of an emotional roller coaster, right? Rory gets off to a terrible start. I think he doubled hole 1. Bryson's coming in. I think he birdied. And then it was a complete flip. Rory starts playing well. Bryson starts falling off. You start to see people from the middle top of the pack, Scotty, Ludwig, Justin Rose, Patrick Reed, start to make their climb up.
Mm-hmm.
The tournament round ends. Justin Rose, I see him at the driving range, at the practice range, staying loose, and I was like, I don't know, like McIlroy's kind of hot. He's got the stroke. He's feeling good. Can't finish, and it goes to a playoff, and I realize I have to head to the airport. I can't delay this any further. I had already run it up to about my max of how long I could stay at my buddy Nick's house. So I'm like, guys, I got to leave before the playoff hole. Pull it up on my phone. I'm flying to the airport. I've got my phone up, hanging on above my steering wheel, like on the speedometer. I'm watching the tournament, the playoff hole. I see Rory win, and it's just an immediate rush of emotions, bro. I was tearing up. I was yelling in my car. I mean, it was absolutely epic. I wouldn't have wanted it to go probably any other way. Like, to force it to a playoff. Rosie, who I like a lot, and luckily we were able to talk to him a little bit at the tournament. So it was hard because I was kind of pulling for Justin Rose as well, but deep down, wanted Rory to win and go ahead and complete the career Grand Slam. Get to the airport, eyes are bloodshot. I'm in a rush of emotions. I'm just like excited. I'm like, get me through security. I'm texting you. I'm texting everyone. It was, just an awesome Sunday for the tournament.
It was probably the most memorable major that I've watched, certainly in recent time. At the moment, it was tough to compare it against 2019.
Yeah.
I still think that 2019 for me was a little bit sweeter, just because Tiger made the treacherous comeback, right? Like, Rory at least is still young.
Yeah.
If he would have lost in the playoff, he still would have been able to have chances, right? But Tiger's getting up to an age where we don't know how many chances he's going to have left.
Right.
Thankfully, he takes care of his body as best as he can with what he's got. And Augusta's a course that does lend well to the older guys that have experience. Like Freddie Couples, saw him go out and shoot.
Oh yeah.
68, 69. Like, okay, Freddie, we see you, right? So now having some time to sort of digest everything, it's, for me personally, I would probably put the 2019 Masters with Tiger winning just ahead. I mean, by like the thinnest of margins.
Yeah.
But damn, I was in tears both times, right? I'm sitting there holding Frankie, and Shelby had run to go do some errands, and she came back in the house, walks in, and she just sees me like in tears on the couch watching this, and she's like, what is going on?
Oh, I got to see Shelby in here.
But it was just so much pressure that had been building up, and the expectations, and will he ever do it? And he tried to give it away so many times.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about it a little bit more
real quick before we move on. You're one of the unique individuals that's been able to go to a Masters that Tiger won to make a comeback, and a Masters that Rory completed his Grand Slam. I don't know how many people are out there in the world. There's probably quite a few, right? But to be able to go to probably the two most iconic Masters wins and tournaments of, I'd say, probably our generation, right? Like, obviously, Tiger won while we were growing up, but the comeback and then to see Rory complete his career Grand Slam, that's kind of crazy.
It's very humbling, to say the least. I think that, if any players are trying to knock that off, so Justin Rose, if you're trying to get that one next year, maybe find a way to get me some tickets. I'll be some good juju for you. I don't know, but
I do think Justin Rose played as well as he did because you gave him that tip on Tuesday.
I would like to think that our little Tuesday lesson had something to do with the fact that he really played great golf.
Yeah. It was awesome to see him hunting.
All tournament except for Saturday. He gave up too many strokes on Saturday
Right.
But shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? What was interesting to me too, and reading this book is looking at all the different playoffs that have occurred in Masters history. There's only been 18 playoffs since it started in 1934. 35, Gene Sayers and Craig Wood. We've talked about that one extensively. 42 is Byron Nelson versus Ben Hogan. Battle of the Texans, right? Byron would win. Interesting sort of fact too. Ben Hogan never beat Byron Nelson whenever they played head to head.
Really?
Never did.
Okay.
And Ben Hogan strikes me as the kind of person, RIP, first of all, but he strikes me as the kind of person that is probably still rolling in his grave right now because he was never able to take over Byron. But Sam Snead, Ben Hogan in 1954, second time that Hogan was in a playoff. What was interesting to me, Nick Faldo, was in a playoff in 1989 and 1990. Won both of them.
Wow.
I mean, talk about ice in your veins, right? Yeah. We already talked about 2005, Chris DeMarco and Tiger Woods. 2012, Bubba Watson, Louis Oosthuizen, the incredible shot on 10, hooking his wedge around. We talked about 2017, Sergio and Justin Rose. And then, of course, 2025. Again, unfortunately, Justin Rose was in that playoff.
Yeah.
Justin's second in the tournament. But pretty remarkable stuff. I mean, the being able to go to the practice round the week that the tournament takes place just makes it that much more special when you watch it on the weekend.
Yeah.
And just like recapping the tournament too, like Justin Rose was in control for the entire tournament. He came out, led after round 1, 7 under. Scotty and Ludwig were trailing 3 back. Rory was playing well and then had some blow-ups on 15 and 17. Right, he was 4 under through 14 and had a chance to get to 5 under on 15, but 15 strikes again.
Right.
He hit that chip, went just too far, which from an experience perspective, you cannot hit that chip too far. Scotty was in a similar position that day. He played it much more conservatively, knowing that he wouldn't be able to get it super close, but then 2-putted, made his par and walked to 16, right? No blood. Friday, Rosie was holding steady, right? Bryson started to make moves.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we see you, Bryson. Rory did Rory things. Best position he's been in heading into the weekend for a long time. Scotty was kind of back and forth, which, to be fair, Scotty probably had like his C+ game this week.
To that point, there's been, I think it was maybe even Tiger that said it, that like even on his worst days he'll be in contention. And I mean, we saw it, right? Like it was Sunday round at my buddy Nick's house, and I was like, man, Scotty just really hasn't had it. And of course, this is me and a weekend warrior talking about the world number 1, but I'm just like, it's just crazy to think that he finished where he did when he didn't have his best stuff.
Rory should send some sort of a care package to Scotty for that C+ game that Scotty had this week, seriously, because the fact that Scotty was still in contention after all of this is pretty remarkable, because there could have been so many other people in the mix. I mean, Ludwig was right there, had a tough tough, last couple holes coming down the stretch. Scotty was right there too. I mean, again, a few shots here, a few shots there, one shot here, one shot there.
Yeah.
But we talked a little bit about it. You mentioned it on Sunday. So you missed your flight. I ended up running into you on the range.
Dude, I totally forgot about this, dude.
So I'm sitting there. It's Masters Sunday. I barely slept the night before. My clock was still waking me up at like 5:30 every morning. So I got up. I'm all energized. I'm like, you know what? It's Sunday of the Masters. I'm gonna go hit balls. I'm gonna practice. I need to get some like jitters out of me. I'm gonna go hit the sauna, do a cold plunge, just like get in the right zone for this like epic day, right? Thankfully I did. So I run into you on the range, which was hilarious. I'm sitting there chipping, and I look up and I see you walking as the sun is rising, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, you're supposed to be on a plane headed to New York right now. And we had a great laugh. I mean, it was just like, what are you doing here? And we made our way to the range, had a great practice session. I think your body was a little bit taxed at that point. It was a rougher range session for you, but I sort of went into it like, hey, you know what? I don't want to have just like any range session today. I want to play golf on the range, which is something that Ben Hogan used to do. And I was like, you know what better place to play than Augusta? Like, I know that course now, like the back of my hand, as best as I can. So I ended up just playing Augusta on the range. So,
you went low that day too.
Yeah, I had a good caddy. I had a good caddy. You played aim in corner with me.
I played aim in corner. I was having a tough day at the range. I think I woke up early, missed my flight. My mind was all over the place. I was like, man, I'm just gonna go hit the range, like whatever. That's the only thing I can do right now. Caroline's still asleep. Show up, no stretching, no nothing. I mean, obviously we're getting older, but it was fun to see you pick the targets and be like, all right, we're on hole 12.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun practice sesh. I mean, just getting us in the zone, just being able to touch a golf club and hit some shots, the day that the final round's taking place. So, on that Masters Sunday after, we wrap up and head home, was tuning in to the coverage, and Ludwig started to creep up the leaderboard, which was, great to see. Clearly his game is suitable for Augusta, which it either is or it isn't out there. Certain players it just clicks, certain players it does not. People that it does not, people like Lee Trevino, right? Like that was always sort of his Achilles out there for whatever reason. But going back to some history on number 15, where Gene Sarazen made his shot heard around the world, Victor Hovland almost made a double eagle on 15 just after the 90th anniversary of Gene's double eagle.
Man, that's insane.
So pretty crazy to see that. Victor wasn't really in the hunt at any point, but his game has been a little bit back and forth. He did get a win recently. So, it seems like he's starting to progress a little bit better, but it was good to see him at least like make the cut at the Masters and, post some good scores. What was shocking to me though was Rory with a 4-shot lead heading into the back nine. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, if he can just get through 10, 11, 12 at even, he's good, right? He had a tremendous break on number 11. Hit his drive right, had to punch it under the tree. I mean, was probably a few inches away from rolling into the water on 11, which could have been horrible. But him that day, knowing that, I mean, he may have bounced back, right? Again, on 13, he elected to hit 3-wood off the tee, play it safe, knew he wasn't going to go for it in 2, laid up to a comfortable yardage to the exact spot where you want to be, blocked his wedge, made double, Rosie's back in it, right? Just an incredible emotional roller coaster that took place. Rory obviously ended up going into a playoff. He blocked his wedge shot on 18 in regulation, which I cannot believe he made that miss. right? And then missed a 4.5, 5-footer for par.
Yeah, that was tough to watch.
Kind of never had a chance.
Yeah.
It was just like one of those, like, you're watching him stand over it, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have the confidence. They go to a playoff. Rosie's staying loose. He's on the range, as you mentioned earlier. I'm thinking that if Rory had to go to a playoff, he's toast.
I thought the same thing.
But, they both hit good drives on 18, which shout out to Rory. He hit in regulation, he hit a perfect drive, and in the playoff hole, he hit a perfect drive.
Yeah.
That's the hardest shot on that hole,
Yeah.
as we talked about earlier with the shoot. But he ended up, clinching his first Masters title, slipping on the green jacket, completing the career Grand Slam, joining elite company, Gene Sarazen, Ben Hogan, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and now Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at that clip of
Let's
Rory.
do it.
It was a nail biter till the end.
What an
Incredible shot on 15. I mean, that is
Jesus.
I was texting my buddy Alex Bodney, who you know, and we both, after he missed that eagle putt, we're like, he's gonna wish he made that eagle putt.
Yeah.
I could hear him all around the world.
He had a chance to win it on this last putt in regulation and missed it.
Just never had a chance on 18 in regulation. And
Playoff with Justin Rose.
Rosie was skipping rocks on that.
Oh, yeah.
Boys for the taking. During the cipher. And the moment you've been waiting for 11 long years.
My family, my team. The one thing I would say to my daughter Poppy that's sitting over there, never give up on your dreams. You can never, ever give up on your dreams.
Oh, it's right next to the hole.
She a little unlucky to got stuck right there. You come with save that to keep it here.
Almost dunked it. That's the Rory swing that we saw.
Right off that hill.
Right off the hill.
I mean, 1 yard further, he was on that shelf.
Perfectly executed. Just listen to Jim Nance's call right here as he's about to line his putt up after Rose slips this one by.
Det görs och again. Journey is stimming to get here. For all this history.
Johnny the Silver. Roy as his masterpiece.
In that embrace right there with his caddy, his best friend.
So the maiden embryo chitty sees 2013.
And right there, man, Rosie just congratulating him. Just
His wife, too.
just
Rosie's
pure,
wife.
pure class.
It's funny. I mean, obviously the tournament ended, 3 days ago? It doesn't matter how many times you watch that. It's such an emotional finish. I was texting our good friend Tulo. I think it was either yesterday or today. And he was saying, dude, I'm still emotional watching this.
It's tough to not get emotional when you see somebody who just battles.
Right.
And, again, like Justin Rose, such a class act. This is the second time he's been in a playoff. He's finished second place at the Masters now in 2015, 2017, and now 2025. His game has stood the test of time. That's a decade of competing at Augusta and in the Masters. I found this quote, though, by Christopher Earle. and it is be humble in victory and gracious in defeat. And to me, that just sums up Justin Rose in a nutshell. But give me just one word to describe Rory's win in that final round.
I mean, the only word that comes to mind, and it's the only word I've been repeating since people have been asking about it, incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's resilient. I mean, he had so many times where he was trying to give it away, and he just didn't stop. I mean, what he was saying to his daughter right there, I mean, I'm getting choked up thinking about what he has put into the game, what he's tried to do to complete the career Grand Slam, to then give his daughter this advice to never give up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, she's a little too young to understand it right now,
Yeah.
but I think she's going to reach a time where she's like, you know what, I'm really proud of my dad.
Yeah.
And I think that will probably mean just as much, if not more, to Rory.
Yeah.
But just resilience on display. So, how about this then? Like, give me your top few takeaways from the practice round, the Masters tournament as a whole. Like, what sort of comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, we've already covered Rory winning, right? Which was just epic. Like, I think that's the epitome of the round that we were able to watch, and a tournament that we were able to attend, right? I mean, the fact that we went to this Masters, that Rory was able to eclipse the tournament that's been evading him. It's just been extremely elusive for him. It's just wild. It's epic to think about. I think the other thing is, like, I don't think I realized how long and honestly kind of intimidating this course is, right? I've honestly and obviously only seen it on TV, right? You see the photos, you see the programming, but to be able to be that close to the course, that close to the players, watching the shots that they're hitting, re-teeing, hitting a second shot for Saturday, or setting up pin locations, putting tees in the green to set pin locations for Saturday or Sunday. I mean, the course, it just on TV looks extremely difficult. In person looks impossible. I mean, I asked you this question, which I'm going to ask you again before we wrap. But I asked myself this question, like, what do I think I'd go out there and shoot? And I think a buddy of mine, good friend of mine, Alex, I even asked me this the other day after we were there. And I would be completely content, smiling off, walking off 18 green, if I shot up 120, 130 there. I mean, it is a monstrous course.
Yeah. That's a tough one to answer. I would love to be able to put it to the test to see
Obviously.
like what I would shoot out there, right? So hopefully I'll put it out there into the ether, into the universe. Like that would be an absolute dream to be able to
If you get that, I'll caddy for you all day, bro.
To play Augusta would be phenomenal. I would hope that I could break 90. Would be my guess. And like I'm trying to think of like what's reasonable, right? Like right now I think I'm like a plus 1.5. So like I can poke it around pretty decently. I think the par fives, if I hit good drives, that would be my opportunities to score well. The greens would obviously be treacherous.
The greens are treacherous. The approach shots are treacherous. The putting, insane.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would say maybe I could compete with Nick Dunlap's 90 that he shot on Thursday.
I honestly think you can do that.
So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully I get that opportunity. Going back just briefly. So Jim Nance's call on 18. The beauty of Jim Nance and the way that he announces is there's a lot of power in his simplicity, right? So leading up to it, he says, Look at the long shadows, symbolic of this moment, with the journey it's taken to get here. For all this history, the long journey is over. McIlroy has his masterpiece. Those words are going to live on for generations. They're going to outlive us. But what an incredible call. What an incredible battle to see him finally pull it out. This might be a new segment of the show. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Swaggiest moments of the week.
Swaggiest moments or swaggiest players?
Swaggiest moments, swaggiest players. So we have a little wager that we started before this episode. Give me your thoughts. Who did you see outfit wise? Who really stuck out at you as like this guy's got some swag this week?
Yeah, so we made a little wager before this episode. You said you know dead on who I'm going to say, and I think I know who you think I'm going to say.
I wrote it down just so that we can reveal it here, so it's all documented, everybody knows.
This might surprise you.
Okay.
It could not be. You know me pretty well. We've known each other for a long time. The day that Bernhard Langer wore all red to commemorate his first win.
That's literally one of the moments that I jotted down here. Unfortunately,
I know who you're going to say.
That was not my pick. So let me ask you this: what would be your second pick?
Ludwig.
The
dude was swagged out. I'm not an Adidas guy.
Yeah.
But the guy looked...
Ludwig was looking fresh.
He was looking fresh and classy at the same time.
The white polo, blue pants, green hat combo was stellar. So what I have written down here is Cam Smith and the blazer.
Oh, wow. You know what? I completely forgot.
Sure.
I completely forgot about that.
I thought for sure you were going to say Cam Smith in the Navy.
Wow. Okay. I thought you were going with Jason Day.
Well, Jason Day is another person that I wrote down on here. He's got an unbelievable amount of swag. I mean, Jason Day is incredible, but we were shooting IG posts back and forth with Cam Smith.
Yeah.
Blazer.
I mean, what an epic look. Honestly, now that I remember it, I probably would have said him. But Bernhard, with it being his final Masters, wearing all red to commemorate his first win. I mean, just what an absolute stud.
Yep. So, okay. Well, I owe you the wager amount, undisclosed. Maybe
I've been taking money from you a little bit.
Maybe we'll parlay that into one of our wedge matches or putting matches that have started to get more and more heated here as of late too. But as we're sort of winding down, some things that come to mind for me for Rory after securing the career Grand Slam. He's basically playing with house money at this point. I mean, there is a situation where he could rattle off another 2, 3, 4 majors over the next few years.
Yeah.
And I see that as a real potential. He's playing Portrush for the Open later this year for the final major. It's in Ireland, right? Like he's going to have everybody on his side for that. We've got the PGA Championship coming up next in May at Quail Hollow, where Rory's played really well in the past. Don't be surprised if Rory comes in strong, and maybe that teases out an episode that we'll do on the PGA Championship.
Oh, yeah.
Some history around that and early predictions. Circling back to our predictions, I think if I remember correctly, you took Colin Morikawa.
I did.
I took Rory.
You did.
I said, and we'll try and play the clip back so that we can have some proof of this, but I just said that Rory seems like he's at a more mature spot now.
Right.
What I've seen him previously. Winning the Players' Championship was huge. He just seemed like he had a little bit of a weight lifted off of him. We didn't wager that. Probably should have.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't.
I've lost this one, but all right. So to wrap it up, tell me, what is the favorite course, your favorite course that you have played to date?
Favorite course that's a tough question. Favorite course that I've played to date. It's interesting. It's hard to answer this because the first course that comes to mind is Pinehurst. but the experience was tough. Like I mentioned earlier, it was raining sideways. I think it was like 48 degrees. But the history of it, right? Walking through the pro shop, the clubhouse, seeing all the trophies, all the banners, all the photos. Pinehurst #2 to be able to play that, even though I was playing absolutely terribly. Caught a case of the S word.
Ooh.
And completely forgot how to golf. Everyone on this trip, bunch of good dudes, great guys. Nobody said anything. They were just like, hey man, you'll figure it out, man. Just keep going. Like, I mean, we had 4 days of golf.
Yeah.
But to be able to play miserably in terrible conditions, that's probably Pinehurst and now Palmetto are the only 2 times I've ever golfed in the rain. It was still just an incredible course, incredible track, with a lot of unique, beautiful history to it.
Yeah. I love that. I figured Pinehurst might be on there. We played Gamble Sands last year.
Gamble Sands is hard to top. That's top 3.
Great course. Kind of sneaky great course in
Yeah.
Washington State. Okay, so last question for you. Dream course that you haven't played yet. And let's keep it like in a construct of courses that you're able to like get on and play.
Sure. That's a really good question. I think based on the group of friends that we have, they took a trip out to Cabot and said that it was absolutely epic. A hell of a trek to get to. But every single one of them said they would do it again. It'd be tough not to say Bandon, just because Caroline's family's from Washington. It'd probably be pretty easy to get there. But there's something about the journey to get to an epic golf course, to potentially play terribly or great, that is always exciting to me.
Yeah. I love it, man. Well, thank you for coming back to join for the download of our Masters trip. I mean, what an epic trip that we had.
Absolutely epic,
It was absolutely incredible. So many great memories that we'll be able to talk about for years and years and years. So yeah, wrapping it up. For the Ages on YouTube, Instagram, X, like, subscribe, all that shit. Do whatever you do. Until next time, we'll see you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
Yep.